This video is sponsored by Domestika. Welcome back to a new episode of GuideRunner, a series where I casually guide you through the creation of a piece of my photo manipulation artwork, giving you a little insight into my thought process with a few tips and tricks along the way. For today's video, I'm back again with the neon vibes, and I'll be creating a futuristic city skyline full of life and vibrant colours, set in a post-apocalyptic world where two characters traverse a vast arid wasteland in hopes of reaching this safe haven. I like the idea of seeing the stark contrast of this beautiful cityscape on a desolate backdrop, and I'll be taking inspiration from games and movies such as Cyberpunk 2077 and Blade Runner. I've already collected the stock assets that I think I'll need to pull this off, and now I'm simply setting up the base plate for the image, starting with the ground and sky elements. I've picked two images that will make up the ground, choosing some dry desert environments, one with slightly more flatter terrain and the other with plenty of rock, so we've got a little bit of variation. For the sky, I'm going with a dusk setting. The slight purple and pink hues will complement our cyberpunk city nicely, but it also needs to be dark enough to make sure the city lights really pop, so that's something I'll be keeping an eye on. Most of the city will cover the lower clouds, so the sky's just a little bit too empty at the top, so I'm going to place one more cloud image there, just so there's a little bit more going on. Okay, we've got a solid base plate to work with now, so we're introducing the first character, fully kitted out with oxygen mask and hazmat suit. This helps suggest the hostility of this open air environment. Now, I was recently watching one of Seven Voyage's latest YouTube videos, which I recommend checking out if you haven't already, and he mentioned a technique I haven't used before that's great for quickly altering the colours of a subject to fit a nighttime setting. Simply create a selective colour adjustment layer and clip it to the appropriate layer, select the neutral colours and adjust the cyan and yellow sliders. And as you can see, it does a decent job. I figured this would be a good chance to try it out, and I used it throughout all this piece with good results. Adding in another character, this time a young lad, maybe it's a father-son duo, getting those Last of Us vibes. He needs his own oxygen setup, so I'm just going to loosely cut out the one from our adult, scale it down and place it into position, and then adjust the brightness and contrast and use the selective colour technique again. The child accompanied by an adult scenario maybe seems a bit obvious, but the emotional stakes are always heightened when you introduce a young character, especially in this type of setting. I wanted the main character to be dragging cargo of some kind, so I found this car chassis which will work well for the base. I originally wanted to use an old car door, but I don't think the awkward shape would read too well once it's covered in items, so I went with this instead. I'm then going to place various 3D items on top and adjust the lighting and colours to match the scene, as well as masking away any unwanted parts. But before we continue, let me introduce today's sponsor, Domestika. Domestika is currently the fastest growing online creative community that produces awesome online courses in-house with the best talents worldwide, helping students to develop their creative abilities. And the great thing about Domestika's courses is that they are for all levels, so whether you're a beginner or a pro just looking to expand your toolset, there is something for everyone. A question I'm often asked is, can you recommend a Photoshop course for beginners? While I can easily recommend all of Domestika's basic courses as they are ideal for anyone looking for a comprehensive course on Adobe software, I also want to point you to an incredible digital artist, Natasha Einert, whose Photoshop course is focused on photo manipulation and montage. In Natasha's Domestika online course, you will not only learn useful Photoshop techniques like image placement and blending, but also learn about the pre-work involved when creating a photo manipulation. Whether that's searching for inspiration or where to get high-quality stock images, to simply setting up a Photoshop document. Like many of Domestika's online courses, Natasha's course comes with all the resources you need to fully engage in the tasks provided. The Domestika in-house team is constantly on the lookout for the best teachers, allowing students the chance to take a course with a renowned designer, artist or photographer and learn from their creative process. There's no membership fee or subscription with Domestika. You create an account and pay for the course you want and learn at your own pace. Domestika courses are $9.99 each for Black Friday week, and I'm sharing a special 10% discount code that will get you an additional 10% off any offer already available on the courses at Domestika. You will find Natasha's course along with many other creative courses in the link in the description below. These canisters will make a nice addition, so I'm just using the pen tool to cut them out, and then roughly figuring out the best place to put them. I'm then using the lasso tool to copy and paste certain parts, and then just grabbing a brush and painting in any areas that have overlaps. Almost forgot to give the kid an oxygen mask, so I'm just going to transform that into position and then mask away any parts that would be hidden by his head. I'll then attach the guy to the sled using some wire rope, using the warp tool to get that in position. Right, now comes the fun part, but also the hard part, building our city. I'm starting by using the quick selection tool to cut out various skyscrapers that I've picked for their bright lights and vivid colours. I have a vague idea in mind of how I want this to look, but with so much lighting involved, there's always going to be some trial and error to figure out what works best. I'm pretty much just making it up as I go, trying different sizes and placements. I want the city to have as much depth as possible, so I'm hoping to achieve this by painting in some solid areas of light, in this case green. This will separate the outer buildings from the ones nearer the centre. Also, the buildings on the outskirts will be slightly darker, which will help with this too. Using the select colour range to highlight these city lights, I can then place it at the base of our city, which will cover up and help blend some of our buildings together. It's taking up a bit too much space, so I'll scale that down and then introduce a couple more buildings to form the peak of our city, where it also needs to be the brightest so the viewer is drawn towards and up to the top of the city. It needs an injection of life, so I've dropped in some light ray assets. I'll set the blending mode to color dodge and mask away the edges. I can then repeat this using some different colors and sizes. The whole piece is lacking a bit of direction and story, so I decided to introduce this sphere dome element, creating a kind of force field around the city, separating it from the outside world. The idea being that the city has its own supply of oxygen that isn't available outside of the dome, hence our characters requiring oxygen masks. Again, a lot of this is just trial and error, selecting stock assets that I think might add something visually, but I never know what I'm going to get until I try it. I usually just flick through the blending modes until I see something I like. Painting in some lights using a soft round brush and setting the layer mode to screen. Given the dusty environment, we want to have a nice amount of light blue. Although I want the surrounding environment to be pretty empty, it just feels a tad too stark and boring right now, so I'll add some simple man-made structures and use any opportunities I can to help add to the story. And just when I thought the hard parts were behind me, I decided to add a moon. Should be easy, right? Well, no, because this moon has exploded, or more likely been hit by a rogue asteroid. Definitely taking inspiration from the movie Oblivion for this part, I overlay various textures of rocks and fiery moons, hoping to stumble upon something that looks half decent. Okay, at this point the bulk of the piece is done, and it's just a case of repeating the same steps to build up the details of the piece, then doing a pass on the lighting and colours, making sure everything feels connected. I hope you enjoyed the final image reveal. Please leave a like and comment if you do, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell to stay notified about any new content.